The morning sun streamed across the Good Morning America set, casting a warm glow over the polished glass table and the glossy backdrop of Times Square. The audience buzzed with excitement. The band played an upbeat tune, and Michael Strahan flashed his trademark smile as cameras rolled live into millions of American homes. "It's a very special day here on GMA," Michael said smoothly, turning toward the cameras with practiced ease. Joining us now, one of the greatest actors of all time, a two-time Academy Award winner, a man whose on-screen intensity has left audiences breathless for decades. Please welcome Denzel Washington. The studio erupted in applause, some cheering, some whistling, as Denzel stepped onto the set. He wore a simple dark blazer over a fitted shirt, sharp trousers, and polished shoes. His stride was deliberate, slow yet confident, his presence commanding even before he spoke a word. Michael extended his hand, smiling wide. "Denzel Washington, everybody." The handshake was firm, too firm. Cameras caught the subtle tension in their grips. Denzel's gaze remained steady. Michael's grin twitched at the edges. Denzel nodded to the crowd, gave a small wave, and sat down across from Michael. The applause faded. The atmosphere shifted, not unfriendly, but charged like static before a storm. Michael leaned in, his smile wide, but his tone carrying a faint sharpness. "Now, Denzel, you've been at this for a long time, decades of legendary roles. Cops, gangsters, soldiers, heroes. But I've got to ask, do you ever worry people just see you as intense? Like maybe, just maybe, you're too serious all the time?" The audience chuckled. Denzel didn't. His expression stayed unchanged. He clasped his hands on the table, tilted his head slightly, and after a pause, replied in that deep, commanding voice, "Better to be serious than to be shallow." The audience gasped, then clapped, some laughing nervously. Michael's grin faltered for a split second before he forced out a laugh. "Oh, I see. We're starting strong today, huh?" The tension was unmistakable. This wasn't going to be the easy, friendly morning interview Michael had expected. Michael shuffled his notes, glanced at the audience, then back at Denzel. He leaned forward again, his smile stretching wider. "Come on, Denzel. I mean, you're legendary, no doubt about it. But don't you think it's time to loosen up? Show us a lighter side? Maybe a rom-com? People want to see you laugh." The audience chuckled again, nodding along. Denzel leaned back slowly, folded his arms across his chest, his eyes never leaving Michael. His reply came calm but sharp. "I've spent 40 years showing people every side of me. If they didn't notice, that's on them, not me." The crowd erupted, clapping, cheering, whistling echoing to the studio. Michael chuckled awkwardly, tugging at his tie. Fair enough, he said, trying to keep control. "But you got to admit, people still see you as a serious guy. Even now, you've got that look, like I should confess something to you." The audience laughed, though thinner this time. Denzel's lips curled into the faintest smile, but his eyes stayed cold. "Maybe you should." The studio exploded. Gasps, shrieks of laughter, clapping so loud it drowned out the band's musical sting. Michael blinked, his grin faltering again. He tried to laugh it off, waving to the audience. "Oh, man, you see what I'm dealing with? He's intense even in real life." Denzel leaned forward, his voice steady, his tone even sharper now. "I'm not intense, Michael. I'm real. There's a difference." The crowd roared louder, whistles and wild clapping filling the air. Michael shifted in his chair, his grin flickering nervously. He tried a different angle. All right. Let's put it this way. People say you're difficult, demanding. You've heard it, right? Does that bother you?" The air went still. The audience leaned forward, sensing danger. Denzel tilted his head again, his voice dropping lower. "Difficult? I call it discipline. I call it respect for craft. If someone wants to call that difficult, maybe they just don't understand what work looks like." The eruption was instant. Cheers, claps, and whistles shook the studio. Some of the crowd even stood, clapping wildly. Michael's grin faltered again. His eyes darted toward the producers. He shuffled his papers, his hand trembling slightly, then forced a laugh. "Wow. Okay. I see you came to play. But it wasn't a game anymore. The tension was real. Denzel Washington had drawn a line, and Michael Strahan had just stepped over it. The applause from Denzel's last line still echoed, but the energy inside the studio had shifted. This wasn't the warm, cheerful GMA anymore. It felt like a courtroom, an arena. Michael straightened his posture, forcing his grin back on. His producers gestured wildly off camera, signaling him to move on, but he couldn't resist. Denzel, he said, try and keep his tone light. Don't get me wrong. I respect you. Everyone here does. But you got to admit, sometimes you come across as intimidating. Even now, you've got the audience looking like they're about to get scolded. The crowd chuckled nervously, some glancing at Denzel, waiting for his reaction. Denzel leaned back, arms folded, his expression unreadable. Then slowly, he leaned forward, locking eyes with Michael. I don't intimidate anyone, Michael. People intimidate themselves when they know they don't measure up. The studio gasped, then erupted in wild applause and whistles. Michael blinked, his smile cracking as the audience's roar drowned out his laugh. He held up his hands, gesturing to crowd. See? See what I mean? He's terrifying, and he doesn't even raise his voice. Denzel didn't smile. He let the silence stretch until laughter faded, then said in his calm, gravelly tone, No, I don't raise my voice because I don't need to. Truth speaks loud enough. The audience erupted again, standing, clapping, cheering so loudly the microphones cracked. Michael laughed awkwardly, shuffling his cards, his hands trembling. He tried to recover, leaning closer, his tone sharper. Okay, truth teller Denzel. But let's be honest here. You've had a career full of praise, awards, accolades. You're at the top. Don't you think you can lighten up now? Just give people the charm instead of the lecture? The air grew still. The laughter died down. The camera zoomed tight on Denzel's face as he leaned in, voice lower, deadlier. You don't tell me how to be me. You do your job, Michael. I'll do mine. The explosion from the audience rattled the rafters. Cheers, whistles, stomps cutting through the tension. Michael tugged at his tie, his smile fading fast. He pressed again, defensive now. Hey, I'm just asking the questions people want to hear. That's my job, man. Denzel didn't blink. His voice boomed calmly, but mercilessly. Your job is to ask questions, not to tell me who I should be. The crowd screamed, clapped, stomped, some chanting his name. Denzel, Denzel. Michael looked rattled, his grin forced, eyes darting toward the producers, waving frantically for him to change the subject. But Michael leaned back, shaking his head, forcing a laugh. All right, he muttered. Don't bite my head off. Denzel leaned in one last time, his eyes locked on Michael, voice cutting through the chaos. Then stopped, putting it on the chopping block. The studio went wild. Gasps, cheers, whistles thundered through the room. Michael froze, face red, notes slipping from his hands. Cameras caught everything. The crack in his composure, the smirk that no longer reached his eyes. The confrontation was no longer playful. It was a battle, and Denzel had just landed another decisive blow. The studio was electric now, buzzing with energy no producer could control. The audience was louder, bolder, feeding off Denzel's sharp lines and Michael's faltering attempts to keep control. Michael shuffled his cards again, dropping one to the floor. The audience laughed, but not kindly. He forced a grin and leaned toward Denzel. You're a tough interview, you know that? Some people would say impossible. Denzel leaned back, arms crossed, voice calm, unflinching. Impossible for who? For someone who wants to turn honesty into a joke? Yeah, maybe. The crowd roared, cheering, clapping, whistling louder than ever. Michael's laugh cracked as he gestured the audience. See what he's doing? He's turning you all against me. But Denzel didn't laugh. He leaned forward, voice low and cutting. I don't have to turn them against you, Michael. You're doing that yourself. The audience screamed, clapped, stomped, chanting again, Denzel, Denzel. Michael raised his hands, trying to regain control. All right, enough. This is Good Morning America, not Good Morning Denzel. The crowd laughed loudly, but not kindly. It was mocking, cruel. He knew it. He tried pushing back harder, voice sharp. "You're not the host here, Denzel. You don't run this show." Denzel leaned in close, his stare unflinching, words slow and deliberate. "Then act like a host, not a heckler." The eruption was volcanic. The audience screamed, clapped, cheered so loud the microphones cracked again. Some stood, fists in the air. Michael's face turned crimson, his grin gone completely. He slammed his hand on the desk, voice cracking. "Enough! Enough of this!" The crowd roared louder, some booing, others cheering wildly. The chant of Denzel, Denzel, thundered again, shaking the set. Michael had lost control of his own stage. Denzel Washington owned the room. The chant grew louder, rolling through the Good Morning America studio like a tidal wave. The audience drowned out the band, the hosts, even producers. It was no longer a morning show crowd. It was a revolt. Michael sat stiff in his chair, his notes scattered, grin gone, jaw tight, fists clenched. Every attempt to laugh it off had failed. His eyes darted to producers offstage, who frantically waved to cut to commercial. But Strahan shook his head. He wasn't ready to give up. He leaned forward, voice sharper, angrier. "Denzel, enough. This isn't your stage. This isn't your pulpit. You don't come on Good Morning America and hijack the show." The audience gasped, then booed loudly, the sound rattling the walls. Denzel didn't flinch. He leaned forward, his voice calm, devastating. "I didn't hijack anything, Michael. You lost control all on your own." The crowd exploded again, cheers, whistles, stomps shaking the floor. Some stood, fists raised, chanting his name. Michael slammed his hand on the desk, voice cracking. "This is my show, not yours. You don't get to disrespect me in front of millions." The studio roared again, some booing Michael, others cheering Denzel. The atmosphere was pure bedlam. Denzel leaned back, crossing his arms, voice lower now. "Respect goes both ways. If you don't give it, you don't get it. Simple." The eruption was deafening. The audience screamed, clapped, cheered wildly. Co-hosts shifted uncomfortably, whispering nervously, glancing at producers for help. Michael's face was red, his voice strained. "I've had enough of this. You don't come in here and lecture me on respect. You're a guest. Denzel." Denzel leaned forward, eyes locked on him, words slow and final. "Then maybe you should learn how to treat one." The silence that followed was suffocating. Then the audience erupted again, louder than ever. Clapping, cheering, chanting drowned out Michael's protests. "Denzel, Denzel." Michael slammed his papers down, voice cracking in frustration. "Security." The words sent shockwaves through the room. The audience gasped, some booed, others screamed in disbelief. From the wings, 2 security guards in dark suits rushed onto the stage. The camera swung to catch the chaos as producers shouted to cut the feed. Michael pointed at Denzel, his hand trembling with fury. "Get him out of here, now." The audience shrieked, some booing so loudly his words were drowned out, others clapping and cheering for Denzel. The noise was overwhelming. Denzel didn't move, calm and composed, arms folded. He looked at the guards, then turned back to Michael. His voice, steady and deadly, cut through the chaos. "You don't have to throw me out. I'll leave myself. But remember this, Michael, you'll never silence me." The crowd exploded again, screams and cheers rattling the rafters. The guards flanked him but didn't touch him. The camera zoomed wide to capture the chaos. Michael red-faced, shouting, the audience split between boos and cheers, and Denzel Washington rising slowly from his chair, towering, unbothered. The studio was in chaos. The audience stood, some chanting Denzel's name, others booing so loudly it shook the set. The band sat frozen, instruments untouched, waiting for a cue that never came. The co-host whispered nervously, faces pale, forcing smiles that wouldn't stick. Denzel stood tall in the center of the storm, calm, unflinching. The guard stayed close but never touched him. He adjusted his jacket, glanced back at the audience, then turned to Michael one last time. "You wanted to show, Michael, you got one. But don't forget, The people decide who they respect. And right now, they've made their choice. The audience screamed, cheers, whistles, stomps echoing to the studio. Michael's face was pale, his grin gone, eyes darting nervously toward the cameras. Denzel stepped toward the wings, his stride steady, deliberate. The guards followed, but he didn't need them. He wasn't rushed. He wasn't rattled. He was in control. At the edge of the stage, he paused, turned back toward the cameras, and spoke one last time, his voice booming through the mic. Respect isn't given by a title. It's earned by your actions. Remember that. The eruption was volcanic. The audience screamed, clapped, stomped, some chanting louder than before. The noise was so deafening the producers had no choice. The feed cut. No outro, no transition. No band playing over the chaos. Just a sharp blackout that left millions of viewers staring at their screens in stunned silence. The final image burned into memory. Michael Strahan, red-faced and shaken at his own desk, while Denzel Washington walked off common unshaken, his words echoing through the chaos.